enjoy it in the moment, but don't like have controlled passion about it. Like don't believe your own hype and don't take yourself too seriously, but enjoy the rewards of your work. Like if people do appreciate it, that's damn awesome. And, that's really all it's about is you just want to get your stuff heard, I mean, even to do that today in such a overwhelming, like information overload world, our phone, our everything, our laptop, like just for someone to stop and like listen to your song is that's a big commitment.
This is All About the Song. Welcome to the 129th episode of All About the Song. I am your host, Michael McJanell, and thank you for joining us. On the podcast today, we have Gord Prior, lead singer of Blu Bones, who have a new song out, She's Got Away with Love. It is the band's 25th anniversary, and I think this is an amazing way to celebrate in style. Check out the links in the description to hear the song after you listen to this podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. There is a music video done by Flikli Animation to accompany the song. It is wonderful in its own right. Flikli are a sponsor of this podcast. They did our introduction to our podcast episodes. Be sure to check out Flikli, www.flikli.com, Flikli. Do yourselves a favor, also look for Richard Atkin, the CEO, on LinkedIn. And a special thank you also to creative director Madison Moore for creating such amazing content. The song and the video are being auctioned as NFTs, and we didn't talk about that in this episode. Check out the Blu Bones social media stuff if you'd like to follow that rabbit hole. I don't really know what NFTs are. We did have an interview for this with a very smart person, a producer of this show, Brian Leung, who has his own YouTube channel called Treebud Academy. It is a very dense, vast, and interesting subject, and I think it pertains a lot to music's future. So we're going to do a separate episode either next week or the week following with Brian Leung to fully discuss what an NFT is. Gord was the first person to release a song in Canada as an NFT, which is super exciting. But let's not get too into that world. It's a beautiful song to listen to its own right, and I'm really looking forward to bringing you our conversation to you today. And now a quick word from our friends and sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Hailed, which is a coffee shop located at Yonge and Gerrard in the downtown Toronto area. If you are a coffee drinker, you must try Hailed. They are ranked consistently among the top 10 coffee houses in Toronto. Visit the store and support local Toronto-based businesses. Be sure to place your order at www.hailed.ca. This episode is also brought to you by Flikli. Thank you, Richard Atkin, friend of the podcast. We really appreciate your support for the Canadian music scene. Rich is the founder and CEO of Flikli, a premier video animation studio, working with large brands and enterprises across the globe. Learn more about Rich and his work at Flikli by going to the website flikli.com, Flikli.com, and connect with Richard Atkin on LinkedIn. So here we are, episode 129 with Gord Prior of Blu Bones. Thank you very much for joining the podcast today, Gord. Congratulations on the new song and the new video. How does it feel to have it out and to start kind of like the second generation of the band?
It feels really good. It's been a great experience and a great thing to do during this year of COVID and lockdowns and some of our friends not being able to work and all the stuff we're all dealing with. So it was just something we all did, as a hobby in a way, and more just for the camaraderie of our friendship. We've all known each other for a very, very long time, like 34 years. So it's just been the response has been overwhelming, and we honestly weren't thinking as much about any of that stuff when we started doing this. We were just doing it because it was just naturally happening, visiting Boris, writing songs, coming up with ideas. We have a lot of ideas on my iPhone. That's the problem. They're still on the iPhone.
Right.
This one started on the iPhone, got off the iPhone, and got finished. So we have a list of stuff we're going to keep just moving forward and getting it finished and getting it out. So now that this has happened, we have a little bit of momentum in it, and we're starting to record again this month. So,
oh, that's fantastic! And I mean, the song sounds great. It sounds like you're all having fun, like you're having a good time in a sense.
It was done like I don't want to bore people, but it was done like in a fun way. Like our buddy Ziggy, our engineer friend, producer guy, great guy here around this area, Siegfried Meyer, like he'd show up at our practice hall with a backpack, just with some mics, and an interface. Within a half hour, just stick some mics up. Drums are done in 20 minutes, gone, and bass player, same thing. He'll go up the highway after work, lay his bass track down in 15 minutes and done.
I've worked with Siegfried Meyer before. He is the fastest engineer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The sound that his keyboard makes is something I've never heard.
Yeah.
It's just so fast. But he's so positive in the environment that he creates. I don't know what it is. I think that people just seem to be able to just streamline through him.
He's like a green light guy, You say, hey, I want to record drums in a half hour. I just want to get a basic garagey lo-fi sound. I don't want to waste a lot of time on details. Just capture it. Okay, done,
Yeah. Well, I went to Godrich to his studio when he had first started it. So basically it was an empty building. And, and it was just framed, and he had like a Beatles poster, and he was walking through and telling us like ideas like, I'm going to do a guitar wall on this side. But now we know that he pulled it off, and there's like 24 guitars on the wall and stuff. Yeah. But the thing that was so amazing to see is as you said, he was just streamlining through this song, and it was just, everything's getting laid down. And there was a backup vocal that he heard that he knew none of us could do. And he went from the control room and he hit record at the perfect spot and then walked out onto the live floor, put on headphones and sang the most insane, like Bono, With or Without You. And then took the headphones off and walked back in. And the rest of us were just gobsmacked because it was perfect. Yeah. There was, and we were just like, oh my God, he's amazing. Like he's everything.
Yeah, he's great for that. And you're describing exactly the Ziggy I know too. Yeah, he's it's always been that way. And as a singer, like, cause every day you might have one day you might have allergies. One day you might, feel like your throat feels strange, whatever. I've always found with him, it's pretty effortless. The headphone mix usually right away is, yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go. And then I give it a whirl, fix a couple things, give it a second whirl, and I'm done. Like I don't labor over it with him. Hey, so
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
That way it's like a real take, so we're grateful for that. So that's kind of how we put this together, was with people like him helping us out and emailing files back and forth. And, you're a musician in a band, all about this. So, and then at the end, Ziggy kind of made sure everything was labeled properly and organized. And he sent it down to Matty Green in LA. And Matty was a student of Ziggy's like 26, 27 years ago.
Wow.
So that's how they kind of know each other. And that's how we ended up with Matty.
Well, it's a powerful mix. That's one of the things that it reminded me, and I think I'm very sentimental towards the idea of hearing live music in a venue.
Yes.
But the mix was so energetic, and especially because we've all been kind of stuck at home, longing for like a full body sound experience in a sense, and perhaps a couple of shitty beers along the way. And there was like, I felt like that essence was captured, which was so fantastic to like really get the experience of the song as much as it was just nicely recorded as well.
Well, thanks. It was an interesting process because like the guitars were recorded by Boris just at his home with microphones in front of his cabinets. And Boris has helped record other local bands over the past decade or so. And he's a good engineer, but in the old days, we didn't do that at all. So, but there's no line 6, there's no direct guitar. That's just Boris in a garage with his mics and his amps. And so it's pretty, and what you're right, I do in hindsight, like I really love what the bass player Barry did because it's just a nice moving live bass track. Like there's not a lot of super editing on this. Like if the drums are a little out in a spot or the fill is a bit ahead of the beat, it's left like that. We didn't want to, clean everything up and put it on a grid so much and fix everything, because then it might not have that energy that you're talking about, I think. So
yeah, no, it was great. And also I want to talk about the video done by Richard Atkin at Flikli. We share an experience where we have both recently worked with him, me for the introduction of this podcast, and that's how we were connected. And it's kind of cool to see the video that Flikli did for me. It's a 15-second introduction to explain what this podcast is, and they nailed the direction of what it was to be. I was so curious to hear about the music video because it's so much more. And wow, it was impressive and it really delivered.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say I had no idea what I was getting into at first. Like it was kind of probably going over my head when I was first talking to Rich on the phone. I just went on Facebook one day and said, "Hey, does anybody know any animators out there?" And I got a lot of friends whose children do like, "Oh yeah, my daughter can help you. She does a bit of animation." And, and I was calling these kids, right? Oh yeah, like I didn't know. I really was just sort of open to anything, and a couple of more professional people, I guess, reached out to me, but Rich in particular, like, really gave me a good message and reminded me how I knew him, and his exuberance about it was legit, and his enthusiasm. So we got talking on the phone, and then the reality of Flikli and that company, obviously I looked them up and it was like, whoa, these guys are doing incredible work and they have like incredible clients all over the world and their company is so top notch. So this started to get really exciting, and I just, I can't say enough great things about them and Rich and the whole team there, because it was absolutely painless, the whole process, and it was completely fun. And just from one conversation with Madison, the producer, all that video came to life in the color scheme. And I don't have it behind me now, but I have a yellow submarine Lego that I'm moving, so I'm packing stuff. But it was behind me, and so the colors kind of, and I said, let's just have fun and boy meets girl, like let's not outthink it, because everybody's dealing with politics and this plague and this horrible year everybody's having. We need some joy, some happiness, some color. You can't go wrong with like Love Me Do by the Beatles, like just enough already, let's just hit the beach kind of thing. And they nailed it. But if you watch the video without the music, it's mind blowing. Like, I've done that a few times, and I just watched the animation. I'm just like, it's its own work of art for sure. Like,
well, it absolutely is, and I think that having gone through this process, and I'm sure that because they are an actual company and they're an entity, they're professionals, and they also are trying to get out of the client what they want. What was really cool as an artist, someone that doesn't think or set up the way that I would never plan to make a music video the way that they did. And it was really, in a good way, it was nerve-wracking to have to like think of a concept and be like, I have to pitch this like in a pitch meeting. Like this has to kind of like, and I was like, oh my God, I can't just show up and be like, I don't know. Like I was thinking I gotta come like prepared. Like I might have to tuck in my shirt for the first time in a decade. Like, and I really loved it in hindsight because it made me work and it made me focus. And since I've done that, I've had multiple conversations with different artists and I noticed too, as I was sent your press release after when we discussed this podcast, and Eric Alper does your PR, who's like this fantastic guy, but there's a professionalism that you have to add to the artistry to get the art out the way you want to. And the process going through with Flikli was so amazing to just like hone your craft, and you become more creative the more focused they make you. I loved that experience.
Yeah. It's a process, isn't it? Like from the storyboard to, the script and I tried to stay out of the way as much as I could. We were loving everything we were seeing. What was interesting is how they captured exactly kind of the vision we had, which was that color scheme, that attitude, that surrealism that is in Yellow Submarine. It's blatantly the color scheme. But who cares? Like if you're going to imitate art, imitate something good. And like Yellow Submarine's epic in my mind, like as far as the history of that film. And I love the Beatles. And so it was also it gave a kind of like a template or a direction to do something new with it. And they ran with it. And when Eddie Van Halen passed away, I remember emailing Madison and saying, Boris, our guitar player, used to be in an Eddie Van Halen tribute band like a long time ago in the early 80s, and a genuine fan. And I met Eddie once in London with my son. I said, would you, put the logo on the shirt in the video? So if you notice, there's a Van Halen logo on Boris, like a little tribute, and so they just like, they're like, yeah, sure, no problem, and now they're just easiest company ever to work with. And but they have a great artistic creative team, obviously. Like, yeah, that's what's really, it's not your normal animated video. There's a lot of things I see in there, like texture wise and technique wise. Like there's a definite look to what they're doing in a style that is really contemporary at the same time as being retro. So it's got that retro Beatles thing, but this very modern animation style. And it's awesome. I mean, I think I've seen it, a few hundred times.
Well, the thing is, you would know and probably have experienced is you write a song, great. And then it sounds great, playing it with the band. Okay. Step 2. Now you have to go to record it. So in this case, you got a Siegfried Meyer who is able to execute it perfectly. So check mark number 3.
Yeah.
But there's so many steps from writing this catchy little song while you're washing the dishes to putting it out. And
yes,
every single one of those things on different levels of emotion are so nerve-wracking. And
yes, they are.
It's such a mountain to climb before you release a song. It's such a thing. And when you have everything clicking together, it's gotta be, there's no better feeling, because even if it doesn't feel euphoric, the opposite feels terrible. Like, I wrote this great song and this music video is not what I wanted. It kills the feeling of the whole process.
And I've had that happen in my life for sure, where you're with it's the wrong time, the wrong place, the wrong everything. And yeah, everyone had good intentions, but it goes south or sours a bit and you kind of walk away from it. Where this, yeah, the momentum's been good. And I think because we enjoy the process so much, and as the process starts to unfold or build out, it just one thing led to another. And there does become like I did say to Boris I said, one thing for sure is we have to mix this properly. Like we have to really focus on mixing this proper as best as any band in the world could, if it was the Foo Fighters or Weezer or whoever, like we have to mix this that way. Like that was my number one thing with the song. And because we'd never done that a lot in our past, we often didn't push hard enough at the end. And, so 25 years later, I listen to recordings and I'm like, could have done a much better job. So I thought, if we're going to do this, let's number one, try to redeem ourselves on the final mix side of things.
Yeah.
And then that just kind of grew. And the Eric Alper connection, I've met him before. I've talked to him a few times. He's always been super approachable, very helpful, always willing to give advice to artists, And once you do something, like when people like Flikli and Rich get involved, other people are now involved, there's a responsibility to at least do your best to let the world know that you have this thing now. So that was the reason for doing it. Not to be rock stars or be cool, but to it's just professional. Like you made a good, decent thing here, promote it.
Yeah.
Get it out, right?
Well, a lot of times you run out of steam. You run out of steam sometimes. Sorry to interrupt, but you can run out of steam when you get to the end, and you spent 16 days working on the kick drum pattern.
Yeah, it can happen.
Well, I won a contest one time to meet Eric Alper, and that's when I saw the press. Yeah, and he's a really nice guy, and we go into his studio at his office, and there's just a wall of CDs, and he's like, congratulations for winning. Here, take all these CDs, and we're all like, oh my god, thanks so much. He's like, I've never heard. Happen. And we're like, I've never heard of this band. He's like, yep, that's how hard this is. I'm giving you CDs of bands you've never heard, and you want to be on this wall. So, and it was like, we all walked out with this sobering life lesson that I still think of to this day. But basically he just said, he's like, congratulations on winning this contest. This is the first contest of many contests you're going to need to win. And it was, it was really great. It was a life lesson, but we walked out pretty sober.
Yeah, it's a sobering business. I feel a lot like I'm 53, so I get a kick out of this now because we're not as attached to the outcome as we were when we were young. So that's given us so much freedom creatively, and so we'll take any kind of acknowledgement we're getting is just all bonus to us. It's and enjoy it when you're enjoy it in the moment, but don't have controlled passion about it. Don't believe your own hype and don't take yourself too seriously, but enjoy the rewards of your work. If people do appreciate it, that's damn awesome. And, that's really all it's about is you just want to get your stuff heard, I mean, even to do that today in such a overwhelming, information overload world, our phone, our everything, our laptop, just for someone to stop and listen to your song is a big, that's a big commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all been in a car watching somebody listening to the radio or CDs, and they'll listen to 15 seconds of a song, skip. And it's an honor to get past the 30-second mark at this point. And I understand it because I do it too as a listener, but as they say, even cell phone drivers hate cell phone drivers. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know, if it's, I don't know a lot about the analytics like Rich would, but on YouTube, when I read it, the average viewer watches that video that they animated for almost 1 minute and 60 seconds, which I think is pretty good for attention.
Absolutely.
They're getting halfway through it, at least the average person. When I think it's only 30 seconds or 15 is the statistic, right? I could be wrong, but I think it's a lot lower than a minute and a half. Well, if that's accomplishment these days, then wow, we're doomed.
Now, as you mentioned about the blue bands previously, well, even before that, Gord, when did you first get interested in music?
I've always loved music my whole life. I come from a musical family. My mom's maiden name is Musico.
Oh, wow.
Pretty wild. Yeah. And my uncle had a big band orchestra, kind of like the one that the Tonight Show band with Johnny Carson was. So that I always remember like the volume of them. And when you were standing in front of a large, big band orchestra, you know, they had that kind of sound. And my uncle was a jazz drummer and just a lot of music in our family. My cousin sang on Broadway with The Sound of Music, my younger cousin. But I started singing in bands, like in practice halls with other musicians, you know, probably around 15 years of age, like most musicians. And then that led to, you know, getting into full-time touring bands back then that would do the circuit, doing like 3 sets a night and playing Monday to Saturday somewhere, or Monday to Wednesday in one city and Thursday to Saturday in another. And Sunday was your driving day. And you just played every city and town in Ontario and into Quebec. And then sometimes you'd venture up to Winnipeg and go all the way to the West Coast and come back. And, you know, so that's how I got my start, and that's how I learned to, you know, to sing on the road. That's hard because, you know, you're singing a lot and you're also not eating right and you're not in the best environment sometimes. So people are always catching colds and stuff like that. So, you know, those you got to be really young. We were 17 to 19 when we were doing that, you know, living off a Kraft Dinner and cans of ravioli, and that was the world back then. You know, you had a hot plate and a cooler. It wasn't glamorous. You had your moments, you know, where like you're in Calgary on a Friday night and it's packed, right? But they're really not there to see you. They're there to drink and party, and you're the band playing the top rock hits of the top 40 chart that year, you know?
Yeah.
But that's how we started. We were a cover band. And then in our early 20s, we kind of dropped all that, got jobs and moved. We were all in London, and we became a band that practiced regularly, working on our own music and played local shows, doing our own music, and had day jobs and started families, and just became an original band like so many others in London and in your hometown. And that's how we got into playing originals, and then you get lucky and open for somebody, and kind of it just built from there. And we were really strict with each other. Like if practice was at 7, like we were all there at 7, and we didn't party when we practiced. We didn't, you know, if you made a mistake, the whole room told you, kind of thing. Like we had this very like strict band. It wasn't as fun as you might think at times, you know. We were pushing each other though, right?
Yeah. Well, that's really important though. I've been both sides of the coin in bands.
Oh yeah.
And you always love joining the fun band after being in the strict band, but you also realize you're like, well, we're not really getting any better, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, I should probably pay attention more to the strict band. I think if there's, you know, as much as fun is fun, the strict band is always going to win at the end of the day.
Yeah. It became fun to get like really good at playing a song. So then when you were live and you were really feeling that energy with the audience, and you're on, you know, and the song is so built into your psyche that you can really go somewhere with it. That's when we started really having these experiences like, wow, this is pretty neat what's happening. You know, the power of music and that moment of, like out of body sort of, in a sense, where, you know, you're really connecting with an audience, right? So that's something, once it happens to you, you kind of, like a drug, you'd want to do it again and again and again. And again, just, you know, in a band on the road, that's not going to happen every night either. Cause then you'll hit a city where, your bass player's got the flu, the crowd doesn't know you at all. They're there to see Our Lady Peace. And it's just hurry up and get off the stage. And so it's a lot of those high, low things that go with it,
It's a trade.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, but at the same time, I mean, it's got to, with that, I guess I'd ask because I know it comes back, but how did it end in a sense? When did it stop?
Well, we had a slow kind of end. We got very confused there for a while. Our bass player, everybody back then knew everybody, of course. And I've told this story a few times in the past month, but Harum Scarum was signed to Warner Brothers, and they were our friends. And their bass player left, and our bass player just had a baby that year and was married. And we weren't making really steady money. It wasn't a consistent, secure lifestyle financially. So they offered him a good, what they call a salary. Like they put him on a retainer for the year, I think. And he really had to take it. And plus they're good. They're a great band and good friends. And our bass player having such a strong vocal, he was sort of like the guy in Van Halen with that big, high, sounds like a chorus of trumpets,
Yeah.
Our songs were so based around our harmonies, me and him in particular. And we had a hard time finding a bass player that could sing like that. And that became we got stubborn and we kept searching and searching and searching. But so that happened around 95. So the band kind of split up around 95, and we had already started a second record. And me and Boris, my guitar player, we kind of kept going through, different rotating auditions with guys. And we finished that second Blu Bones record with the tracks we had started with the original band and some local musicians that helped with drums. We had Corey Thompson do some of the drums over again. And we had Jeff Fountain do some bass tracks over again. And we sort of pieced it together like that. So we changed our name on that album to Louche Papa, which was probably a bad decision at the time, but we didn't think so back then. And that's sort of our second Blu Bones album. From that, me and Boris always stayed in touch and have written songs all throughout the years. We have other songs we've written with friends under different names. We've never stopped writing, but this year was different, where we actually got the original band to be on a track together, to play on a song together. Those are, the band that used to be that cover band years and years ago. So There's just so much history, and I didn't really realize how people respond differently when it is the four of us. It sounds kind of corny, but for the diehard fans, I guess, that we do have, I don't know how many there are, but even if it's a handful, they seem to they got really excited about the four of us doing something new. And then we added a fifth member for fun, Ray Coburn, who's always been a good friend of ours and a fan of the band, and we're a fan of his. And he offered to do a keyboard track. It was like, oh yeah, this is great, absolutely. And he brought he contributed a big part to that song. The way it turned out, a lot has to do with his contribution. So it's kind of nice to do something new, but actually really a lot different, because we never had keyboards before. So
they're huge. Keyboards are a big thing, and they can. I'm in a big keyboard phase right now. I don't play keyboards. I'm just a big fan of adding keyboards to things. But
yeah,
there is something that's really cool bringing the original group together. There's always the exterior of a band that the people that come to see you play know and love. On the interior side, what was it like to kind of get together again? A
lot of it was done virtually. Like Ray's in Montreal, so we didn't see Ray. A lot of it was me and Boris. We tend to come up with the initial ideas, and we can work together at our practice space and get the song started. So we get together and usually come up with the original, like the beginning of the song. And everybody else, is able to sort of get a copy of this version and work with it. And we kind of talk about it back and forth. And then, the drums can be recorded like at a separate date and time. And once the drum track is done, then we start to build on it. Boris does a bed track, and then Barry goes to the studio with Ziggy, does his bass track. So in all honesty, we were never all in the same room ever for this song, which is kind of weird. But
as you're saying this, I also realized COVID-19 was a huge factor of this. So of course you weren't getting together. But
so that's kind of how we did it,
Yeah. Well, one day, it's kind of nice to think, though, that there will have to be a moment where you all get together, you all play, especially if the song's doing well.
We love that. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I have a couple of bands I played in a long time ago that I would love to, that I've been thinking about, especially during this pandemic, to be like, no, we don't need to do anything crazy. Let's just get together for a jam. Let's book 3 hours, get together, play for 2 of them, talk for 1, and just,
absolutely
kind of remember how we felt when we were 16 and 17 and 19, know. And I think it's fantastic that you've pulled this off. And I think that especially that everything has worked out. The song sounds great, looks great, is working. I think that it's absolutely fantastic. And Rich, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Blu Bones live 2021, 2022, whenever that happens.
We will work on something. Boris and myself did do a live thing for a charity on February 11th. It was really cold out, but we did it outside to be socially distanced. My God. But it's of an older song, and we redid it. And it's just a black and white live video, just the 2 of us. So at the very least, Boris and me can start doing more of that. And then as venues open up and as things start to open up, which they will, we have so many friends out there that we could maybe jump on a show with or pair up with and play. And that would be a lot of fun. That definitely. And I think the idea of doing that in the future is going to feel a lot different after what we've all been through. I think we're going to appreciate it in a much different way. I know I will. Even for me to go to see a show, forget about my band, but just to go see an artist that I love, it'll be heavy, because we're going to realize how much we missed it and how much we love it when we're at a concert with other people. It's there's nothing like it, right? So it'll be nice when that happens. And I hope it happens soon, and I think it will. Well,
I played a live stream gig at the Horseshoe Tavern last night, and
awesome.
It was great. I'm going to go with the positives first. It was great. It was fantastic. It was amazing to play on a stage. Was it weird? Yes, it was very weird. But
wow.
I don't think it's my first time playing the Horseshoe to the floor. So I had a little bit of...
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I was like, yep, there's that checkerboard floor I know and love. In between songs, it was a little funny to hear just a cavernous room, but I think the itch is firmly back in me, at least. So I hope that there's going to be some outdoor type things that are going to be able to satiate me for the foreseeable future. That's for sure.
That's awesome. So were you playing with other bands? Was it for what, how many acts were on this bill?
It's one band. It's a 45-minute set. We had glass paneling in between the members. It's a 4-piece band called Kadima. They had 3 cameras. The sound guy's all the way at the back. The camera operator was in a room. There were maybe 6 people in the building.
Wow.
So it was, and it was through the National Arts Center. So people are thinking of ways to support arts through this. And also to all the musicians listening out there, continue to check, government websites, Ontario Creates. There are different grants and opportunities that continue to come that you should check out, because it's not playing live, but it is something, and it's something to look really forward to. Well, and it was great. And we were it was kind of funny because the whole like playing a show, packing up and leaving was streamlined. So we started at 8. I mean, we were like packed up by like 8:55. Like we were, so it was also like, I was home at like 9:20 and it's like, yeah, that was a good day.
No hanging out for a beer after the show. None of that stuff. No.
Even if we wanted to, we couldn't.
No.
So, but opportunities like this are coming, and I think that it's exciting to have stuff to look forward to with regards to music, and we may be seeing the Blu Bones perform sooner than later. We
hope so. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Gord, thank you very much for doing the podcast. I'm really glad to have you on. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Thanks.
What's next for you?
Well, we are in the process of starting to record another song. Drums are up next for that. And we have a live video that I talked about before that we did for charity that we're going to pop up on YouTube. And I might mint that as an affordable NFT and just for fun. And that's basically it. We're looking forward to when the weather can get a little nicer and we can sit under the apple tree and start working on songs again. But we have a lot of material that's logged that's going to keep us busy for the next year. So we're kind of just doing one song at a time. And I like that too, because it gives you a chance to just really put your energy and efforts into one idea, kind of without spreading yourself too thin. I really enjoyed that. Like with this last song was just, let's really focus on She's Got a Way with Love. And we're definitely ready to focus on the next song and the one after that. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Gord for being on the podcast. Do yourselves a favor. The link for the music video is in the description. Check it out. Like, comment, review, hit the notification buttons on Blu Bones. And while we're talking about it, be sure to subscribe to the Sounds Like Songs Network. It is our YouTube channel. If you're watching or listening to this, check out the visuals. It is worthwhile, especially this episode, because we show a lot of really cool animation. And if you have any questions, comments, or a suggestion for a guest you'd like to hear on an episode, send us an email allaboutthesongpodcast@gmail.com. We are listenable at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, we are there. Please rate, review, and subscribe on those as well. There's so much to ask of you, but I'd love you forever if you did. So for Gord Prior, I'm Michael McDonnell. Episode 129 of All About the Song is in the books. We'll see you next week.